Peace.
I love it when people don't know what the F they're talking about in the comments about stuff. Have they been swimming funny to you?
I don't think I observe him enough to tell.
Yeah, well, I can see that there's like a bunch of stuff on the bottom and have to clean it up.
Yeah.
I'll come back tomorrow. Peace to the God.
Peace, God. Peace to be divine. Thought. CI. Smells. To no one's surprise, the earth is still round, and there's nobody here to exile me. Nobody. You know, I don't know if it'll play. I want to thank Dark Kim, who got on his channel and really laid out all the factors of why the misnamed Lord Jamar is not a 5%er, has no power to designate anything. But today is my turn. So it's my turn to speak about the fraudulence, the devilishment, and just to lay it down a little bit, why the idea of thinking that he could even with me. The idea that someone thinks that when they can't defeat people, when they can't be superior over people, when they can't have people submit to them, they speak devilishment. You know, a lot of students, they're younger. A lot of students, they may even be close to my age, and they may never experience, though, seeing white people that own stuff and demean us, look down on us, and expect us to stay in our place. And if you've never seen that personally, if that's never happened to you, right? If you've never been in a situation where a white person was controlling things, like we see when we study, when we research, but actual right in front of you. You may not know what it looks like, okay? You may not know what it looks like when someone expects you to stay in your place on a racial level. In other words, they've designated you not this or that. And now you must stay in your place because of that. When Lord Jamal got on his site, on his week podcast, okay, calls it the God Pod. And it's because he's basically an amoeba, a wishful, hopeful, aspiring, never reaching God. He'll never get there. He's still inside the pod. He's still a pod. He's still a bean inside the damn pod. I spoke articulately. I spoke intelligibly about issues. Okay? And let's, I just want to say this real quick because we start, though, less than 10 minutes into this. I will be here for at least until 8 o'clock, okay? I'll be here till 8 o'clock. I just want to make it known that I didn't get smoked intellectually by a white YouTuber. That wasn't me. I didn't get a white man to write the liner notes to my album that was supposed to be about the 5%. That wasn't me. In fact, the white man that showed himself to be a devil, that wrote the liner notes to the 5% album, Michael Muhammad Knight, the first day that he gave his pitch to me in my classroom here, I told him he can't record here. I told him he can't be here and that he has to go. Because I knew that his way of embedding himself was for his aggrandizement and for his purse. And a lot of people pass away, but they knew this. They knew what I did. Allah B knew what I did. Knowledge Me knew what I did. Wise Jamel knew what I did. They knew all that. I kicked them out from day one. And I told him he's not allowed to quote me. So when he wrote his book, the first one, The 5%ers, he only could quote from something that I had already published. I can't stop somebody from quoting something I published if it's of a certain amount. And it wasn't my publication, it was the power paper. I didn't do that. I didn't show my whole ass to be a devil and say Sunez doesn't belong here because Puerto Ricans aren't the God. And then cleverly to the populace completely bastardize what black man means to us, the black, brown, yellow seed. The 17 million plus the 2 million Indians and the 4,400,000,000. Because we're in this situation because the 4,400,000,000 is not being dealt with at all. People are scared of teaching. It smells like they rather separate the black and the brown than learn the culture of the brown, learn the culture of the other knowledge seeds, the other black seeds. Find the wrong, find the right, find the accessible, and build. That's too much for the weak. You all wanted to see how FBA is divisive. I said the scholarship only cares about what's first. First, 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 first. They don't care about the timeline. They don't care how we lost civilization, as long as they can say they're first and hug with their oppressor. Since the end of last year, it reached a bottleneck peak where I wrote a post, shared it on Instagram and on Facebook, and I only got people that are supposedly 5% crying about how Sunez is stealing hip-hop culture. The culture that they did as a fun thing as a child that I have done for my entire life. My entire life. Professionally since I was 18. I didn't add on to elements only. The 4 elements, I didn't add on to them. I made up my own element. When someone says a hip-hop writer, journalist is a creative writer and is also a hip-hop element, that's from me. The documents, the works, the creative works. And I get a whole bunch of people that aren't musicians, a whole bunch of people that don't do it every day. They turn on their radio. They scroll through the algorithms of the social media and of their music streaming provider and think that they're in tune. They find sound bites of pioneers from weak interviews that have no proper follow-up questions. They want to quote me Charlie Chase, but did they quote Charlie Chase 25 years ago? Because I have those interviews, and they're longer, they're more detailed. Sound bites for people with an agenda, people submitting to an agenda. That's not me. This FBA knows it's built by a clever devil, a bloodsucker who knew that if he said foundational, it would appeal to even 5%ers, because we keep saying knowledge is the foundation. I'm the knowledge. I'm the foundation. I'm the God. I do what I want to do. And look at the mutant monster that comes out of that does not study God as a responsibility to humanity, but studies God as a superiority proof, a proof of superiority to everyone else. But I just want to remind you all, though, that when they asked her, no one asked me about what does weight mean? What does vacuum mean? And I'm looking at my phone, desperately trying to find the answer. That wasn't me. Okay? It wasn't me who's denying gravity with all the scientific proofs, the mathematical formulas. Who, if you posed it this way, nautical. See, I'm dressed in my nautical. You know what I'm saying? My nautical. You try to make it across the globe nautically. It is based on the computations of a round Earth. So the conspiracy means that all of these ships throughout the last hundreds and hundreds of years, we're just keeping a conspiracy for you. For you. Fraudulent. I begin this. It's a classroom. We're intelligent. We are learning. We are teaching others younger. If you don't see the divisiveness of saying FBA and then we talk hip hop and you tell me, no, Puerto Ricans are there, but they had nothing to do with anything. We were just ignorant bystanders. Bystanders doing nothing, right? Absolutely nothing. Then they simplify. It's very much like the vaccines definition being changed because the vaccines that were given didn't work. So what happens? Right? Now, just like the Black Books movement was dead, once people stopped caring, once they learned that the black man from Africa, our ancestors were the fathers of civilization. Once we learned that truth that we needed to know, we need to have it proven. Once we learn that, we don't care about scholarship anymore. We don't care about research anymore. We don't need a timeline to see how the original people, why they are original, and what did they create that was anew. Now it doesn't matter. And for years I had to hear people, and I'm repeating again, I've said this many times, even last week, with a worse voice. It's slightly better this week. We do martial arts. We revere the Chinese, whatever martial art you're doing. I do Kung Fu. We revere the Chinese and what they created and what they modeled. So no, martial arts comes from Africa. Some form of fighting art originates with the original man, wherever original man was original. But the styles that we're doing now, there is absolutely no proof that they developed to this level anywhere else. And yet we got to hear, and it becomes obsessive. And I was saying for years, this is not real scholarship. You study the samurai, nobody cares. I just care the first samurai was a black samurai. But the samurai that's still there, though, is still a black samurai because we deal with the knowledge and we know that black, brown, yellow is original. And nobody cares about the timeline, so it assumes we're the black seed. This was the first man here. What horrible thing happened and who stole it? It assumes to the ignorant and all ye bad scholars out there. Well, the Chinese do Kung Fu now. They developed it. They created it anew. They must have kicked out some blacker person to do it. This is how everybody filled the gaps, people. Due to knowledge, this is how they filled the gaps in history. Well, how did Indian people do that? The black man was first, though, so somebody must have kicked him out and stuff. Not taking into account the changing phenotypes of the same original people over the course of generations, hundreds of generations in one area geographically. Take into account that the original man is made up of the black and the brown germ. Black man is not made up of the black germ. The black man is not made up of the brown germ. Two. And so we have a history of bad scholarship, and it leads to mutants. Ladies and gentlemen, though, one of those mutants, though, has the damn nerve to tell me that, let's see, I'll play it, see if it plays. Just want to remind people of devilishment.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to address this. Kareem Supreme TV said in the past, Puerto Ricans have been trying to follow.
I don't know why it's not playing good.
You know, you're right about that. Some of them, yes. There's a couple of suckers in there.
So, yes. Everyone that talks badly of me. Here's a scientific. You want to be scientific? Everyone that talks bad about me is always far away. They're always 20 miles outside of the holy city. They don't have to care about. They could tell people, I'm telling you things that were told to me. Sunez is a bitch. That's what they were saying. This man. I don't care about his Kung Fu, his Wing Chun. But they know. They said in particular, Wing Chun. It's not all I study, though. So don't be thinking you're going to be seeing what you expect. But I told everybody that it's more like Bruce Lee, fighting without fighting. Because the level of projection is steeped in an aura of patheticness. An aura of patheticness to go out there and have the damn nerve to know what these teachings are and then claim and put exclusionary barriers on this knowledge by claiming a technical fact. You said foundational Black American is what an American is. That's Black. And then you said the father was a foundational Black American. And then you lied and said that this is a foundational Black American nation and that we're Puerto Ricans only here if we submit. That's what you're basically saying, if we submit. But the only kneeling I saw was the cowering to a white man. And it was like a villain. It was like a villain. When they get caught, they get caught doing a devilishment. And they say, stop the tape. Stop. Shut that off. Stop the tape. Stop the tape. Right? Because unless other delusional white folk that don't deal with science, right? The other white folk that you brought on, unless there are other white folk that are as delusional and don't know science and never passed any school, never read one book, never did one calculation, well, then now you're in your comfort zone. But you weren't in your comfort zone, right? Insult. Tell them that they're too smart, right? And we've talked about this a lot, Kasim, right? We go technically, right? If we go, every time we go through these arguments about FBA, whether from you or anyone else, make sure that the delineation isn't because and only out of emotion. You see, God, I'm gonna read you said, and that's cool. But this is something that's been brewing. What's been brewing? Emotional unrest. Emotional, I've been treated bad. You find me the class in the last 24 years where I stood up here and complained about the 85 in this Harlem neighborhood. Did you ever think of what it must have been like for me teaching here these many years? Clearly looking as a typical Puerto Rican and dealing with all of the neighborhood, that 85 that are too scared to go at white people gentrifying, but only deal with me. I know my degrees. 2 days ago, it was who is the 85? God, you said I'm a Black American from Brooklyn with family from the South. B.A. is just a distinction. That's the cleverness of it. Because when you start to expound on it, right? You go, people may see me and think I'm Trinidadian, Jamaican, Nigerian. Those are Black Americans also. So FBA just put it in proper context. I'm not pro-Trig. I don't see the issue. But see, God, according to the FBA, though, Trinidadian, Jamaican, Nigerian, whatever you were confused for, is not them. And they will vehemently tell you that. And you yourself will be a tether. See, like I said, listen, I'm going to go back to this, Kasim, because I've been saying this again and again. To research a time period, you need more than one particular voice. You need many voices. To tell me you saw an interview and say Puerto Ricans and Blacks never got along, did we do the research about the time period before hip-hop? History is made by the few. We should understand that because we are the 5%, right? Do the knowledge, God, right? Let's talk about FBA. Let's not talk about Tariq or Lord Jamar. But let's talk about the fact that these two beasts are the guys that had the ideology, spreading it, Jamar, invented the damn thing. No matter what, though, whether you say that this is a good distinction, it is not a title that was made first. It was an organization, and people are expected to strip themselves of their identity and become part of that organization. It fits God's and is very appealing Because all we know is that me first, I did this first, I was the first one there, and can't tell me a damn thing about anything that happened after. Gee, I am having arguments with people that don't know history, never did anthropology, don't know ethnomusicology, and think that songs and music and culture and dance are made up all by one person. See, some of you go, well, Sunez, the hustle was made up by one Latino. The hustle has specific moves. They are not a bevy of moves, and they don't flip and change. It is very simplified. Breaking is totally different. It's a hodgepodge of things. And so when I go into these elements and I say that all of the Bronx merged, converged, united, and then I say that the black and the brown were there, they say, no, they weren't uniting. We were uniting with other people. And yet, the places of convergence, though, the major players in the music, though, that head the convergence, they all happen to be Caribbean. They dismiss African Bambaataa not because he's a damn pedophile, but dismiss him from not even looking at him overtly converging it, which is part of the creation. He is a creator. This thing doesn't exist unless he does that. This thing doesn't exist unless her converges the merry-go-round with the b-boying and with the MC forum that he provides. I don't know why there's an argument. You see, when you apply for a visa as an immigrant here, when they do it, you know that you have to show and prove that you've been doing something for this country. And the way that Tariq designed the FBA was to be the promotional visa for reparations. Chad, I don't discount that either, though. You know, there are variations in the hustle. So I don't see that the two don't have their own creators on each side. You know what I mean? That New York developed something and that Chicago developed something. You see? People telling me foolishly graffiti was made up by one person. Graffiti isn't even one thing. It's countless designs, countless artwork, countless stylings. One person made it up. This isn't scholarship. The FBA is a title that was designed to get people in the organization. It was designed to develop its power by excluding others and destroying the Afro-diasporic power that was already there. It's not enough people. Everybody hates each other. The reality is that only a few people create anything. So that logic is out the door. When we study the civil rights movement, go back to our parents, though. The majority of them was not out there. It is done by the few. The 5% was built by the few, and thus the 5%. Hip-hop wasn't every damn teenager. It was built by a few. And in many cases, the few that were talented enough. See, years ago, all of these earliest b-boys kept saying that the Latinos messed it up when they went to the floor. And now they come back and say they made up every damn part. When you saw the clips of Crazy Legs saying this on Moreno style is from Fresh's Kids. Did you rewind? Did you ever find out where that was from and see the rest of it? Did you ever check out the rest of the actual fucking clip? Clips don't work. Malcolm X already said that that's how they defeat you. They soundbite me. That's what he said. And all you need is a 30-second clip. Everybody's in front of a judge. There's no conversations. I gotta hear people try to be assholes, send me videos about Latinos, because Latinos, they didn't even speak English. They didn't even, to a third generation by the time hip hop starts. What are you talking about? Been here 3 generations already. They don't know nothing about the Ghetto Brothers. They don't know. They talk about they know black people. They don't know who Black Benji was. They don't know what his death, how it impacted relations between gangs. They don't know about the culture of gangs, so they don't know about the biker gangs and how they did the Apache line and how they did the up rock, down rock, up rock, top rock and dances. How all of these styles converged. And I didn't say Puerto Ricans did it. I said converged. And how they formulated. How the brothers with the Moreno style, the Boricuas that brought other things like the gymnastics and all the other stuff overtly into it. He was, no, we saw that in some clip with some African from Africa. Where? When was this? Timestamp it. It's not timestamp. When was this available to watch? In 1970 what? What channel was this on? Nicholas Brothers did dance violently, angrily, confrontationally. In fact, they did some of the most athletic things I've ever seen, and they didn't even break a smile. Nicholas Brothers. And when did they play Nicholas Brothers? Because even today, TMC is not playing them that much. Chad, this is what they say. They say Ben Bada's not a creator in it. Because he's Jamaican, so he has to be discounted. Right? You're going with what you know. My scholarship goes to building with actual young lords, face to face. Me, face to face. You ever know the history of certain universities, how they got black and Hispanic studies departments? How that happened in CUNY? Faced black and brown together. Colgate University got their black and Hispanic Latino studies department because they were together. I know. You know why? Because my mentor, Dr. David Traverso Galarza, PhD, was one of those people on the front lines. People keep talking about what they have experienced by going through YouTube and finding a possible clip, and you fell for it. And I just want to say, if somebody is as stupid as Lord Jamar and derides me because I sound smart, that's who you listen to. That's who you listen to. It's like an editing rule. Me and the God Day Son, we know this editing rule. If you look with a quick glance and you find an error on the page, that means that there are most likely 4 other errors on the page because they come in 5s. They come in handfuls. You better go check that page word for word, fine-tooth comb. The methodology that they are using is divisive and demands that there is no possibility that black people did anything with anyone else. It discounts the entire genius of jazz because black Americans created jazz by studying everything around them. The blues is constructed by African improvisational styles brought into a structure, a European strong structure. Sorry to tell you, the idea, the genius of bringing things together. The most important jazz artist in the very, very beginning said, it isn't a jazz song if it doesn't have the Latin tinge. This is the work of Ted Jiwa. This is the work of Ned Sublett. This is the work of, missing one, John Storm Roberts. Black people, foundational, yes, in so many things. When we talk about this, they are the core. But you know why they're foundational? Because they have the responsibility of being given this knowledge of self first and are first responsible to the whole world. And as we get it, we get into that cipher with them. And then we are responsible as being God, as being earth to the entire world. Being foundation is about holding up humanity, not about excluding yourself from humanity. And we have animals, beasts, savages, like those two, making money off of it, copywriting, trademarking names that you are saying you are now. I'm sorry to tell you, it'll never be the same, though. It'll never be the same. An FBA title will never be the same as a title of Puerto Rican. Because the Puerto Rican title isn't what we say we are when we really get down to it. If you've ever been around Bus Boricuas, we are Boricua. We are championing that we are not Spaniard property, that we are Afro-Indigenous and a special type of Afro-Indigenous, just like I said in one of my first songs I ever did. We are making a distinction because we went from one owner to another owner. The Puerto Rican flag is not the imperialist flag. It is a flag that was made here in New York City to be in line, solidarity with the Cuban people and the Dominican people to fight against those who are going to take us in the early 1900s. And we're still fighting that fight. It is not the same thing. When we say foundational, I just see people puffing out their chest and saying that we were slaves and we built this stuff, and it's basically it's Starship. That's all I hear is Starship. We built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Every time I hear FBA shout, that's all songs in my head. We built this city. And what? And what? There is a wonderful, you know what foundation is? That if it was really about that, when it was being pumped, then they wouldn't be saying, they would be looking at this and looking at the research and saying, listen, Black Americans really are the foundation to every music and every active culture, nearly every active culture. And I'm saying nearly because there might be one I don't know about, what have you. And when hip hop begins, though, that continues to be so. But Puerto Ricans and other original people were right in the mix, though, being inspired and creating. And in a kind of culture of elements that have so many different aspects to it, there are creators of all kinds in there. And I know that they've gone nuts when they even go graffiti. Because let me tell you something. They want to go to Philly and say cornbread. Cornbread wasn't making burners. Murals. Didn't invent wild style bubble letters. Okay? So you already lose out on giving the credit to other Black people because you don't care anymore. You lose the credit of giving credit to other Boricuas that created like wild style. And look today, Melly Mel just put a video, said it's not FBA, it's Bronx. Okay, that's his own thing. He's distinguishing. He cares about the place, right? Cool. But they asked him, who's the first MC? Who's the first MC? They asked Melly Mel. He didn't say Coke Larock. You know he knows who he is. And in his mind, he's probably like, no, it's not an MC yet until you do this. What I created. And they're both right. Coke Larock invents, starts rhyming. But when do you get an actual 16? When do you get a song structure? Oh, this does not matter to you because it's about music. It's about the details of music, the ethnomusicology of music. And I'm just talking about Black Americans that are being shafted here. Incomplete stories. You tell me two guys, Trixie, they added salsa on it. Two guys made up every single move though. Guys that for years and years and years, they were saying it did not go to the floor. And when they're interviewed, nobody goes, well, what particular things did you invent? What did you not invent? No, it's no good. That doesn't fit the narrative of the question. The narrative of the question is, he's the first, boom, end the discussion, slam. No more questions. No more questions. No more questions. Cut Professor Dave off. Cut him off. Cut him off. Right? I don't know science like that. The truth is, if that they actually let me walk, I'd fall off the planet. I really would walk off. Space is everywhere. He doesn't believe in gravity. But when he stands on the flat earth, how come he doesn't fall this way? Because he's heavy? Yeah. I got to argue with babies? Babies. I got to argue with little babies. Right? Matt, that's right. They had some you see, I find it completely ignorant. What is ignorant? Meaning that they may not be stupid, but they don't know, maybe. But for years, though, it has been a requisite, demanding requisite, that if you get this knowledge yourself, you've got to know your history, where you come back from. But New York history and Black American history is a must, because this knowledge itself came here in its greatest form. Knowledge itself. Father didn't make up knowledge itself. Elijah Muhammad didn't make up knowledge itself. Father Muhammad didn't make up knowledge itself. Knowledge itself exists. We are, and so we be. Right? We are, so we be. And we continue to born. But in this form, in this magnificent simplicity, in this powerful delivery, it was brought here to these people. There is a responsibility here. And foundational Black Americans, instead of saying we are leaders, how are you leaders when you just cry about how are you treated? They treated me bad and I don't like any of them, and they're not in this. Right? There's brothers that I know that when they had their books, I bought every last book that they had. I made 9 of them, they bought 0. But they want to argue about me, about music and culture that I've been doing for 30 years, but somebody gave them a clip. Somebody gave them a clip. And now people don't want to say the truth about how select Black folk did hip hop. How select brown folk did hip hop. Because they don't want to look like they're going against their kind, right? That's not racism. Don't speak the truth. Don't question what has been ushered, what has been spoken, because then you're going against your kind. Black is the new white. If this is how you do FBA, then it's a very important thing. I remember my brother telling me this, my twin brother telling me this. Way back 1997, we're listening. Came out 96, I know we're listening 97, right? 98. We're listening again to Nature of the Threat by Razkaz. And he's saying how the world's population is gonna get brown, then black, and then, right? And my brother goes to me, what's the point of the whole world becoming genetically black and brown again if we're just gonna act white? Because when I see Lord Jamar and he tells me stuff, that's a white man. Lord Jamal's a white guy, right? Professor Dave, that's his father. He's a son to Professor Dave, and Professor Dave took him to school and whipped him. He whipped the boy. He said, honey, pay attention. He said, son, pay attention. And he paid attention. He griped. He got mad. He tried to Google some response, but it's actually not science, so it's harder to find a lie. How do I support my lie, right? And then they go, I know Lord Jamal said face value. He called me face value boy. Again, people that call me names, they're never around. And I am always here. Same bat time, same bat channel, right? You want to find me, I'm easy to find, right? But they have no power. They have no power. They're weak. They've taught no one. They've shared this with no one. They're liars. Devils. And this is who we're following. We're following Tariq, a guy who made pimp books. More than one. Wrote 2 books about how to pimp women. Just sharing it though, right? Just sharing it. Right? Insulted my brother. That's right, Shalom. Insulted our brother, Minister Freedom, who gave him side. Do you know when he did that? Right when they said, the white people that Lord Jamal learns from, the ignorant white people, the conspiratorial white people with no science background. He said, the Quran has no surahs that say that the earth is round. And Minister Freedom said, okay. He turned Denzel. He said, okay. And he said, surah, boom, boom, boom. I don't remember. He laid down the surah. Why are you saying it though? Jamal's on his cursing. Blah. Weak. I'm weak. I don't have knowledge. I don't have wisdom. I speak stupid shit. I don't have understanding. And I am weak. And when I maneuver, I'm weak and wicked. Weak and wicked. What's weak and wicked? Insult people, invited to your genitals, right? Weak and wicked. Look at who you're dealing with and then look at the title. You may have gotten a title. Look, the title cares about where it's going. The title is about exclusivity. You keep saying we're a foundational Black American. Technically, the title is correct, but the use of the title is to use it correctly, You are the appropriator of the term. You're a black man in America, born here, right? And you use the term correctly and righteously, you are appropriating a term. This term is intended for exclusion. It is intended for black Americans to say that they are FBA and not even from Africa. I know one of my brothers told me that. He told me, right? The lesson says we think we're all different. He says, Sunez, we are different. We are not the same. We got to go back to our tribe. I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to take a pause here again. Because I don't come here crying and bitching and moaning. I have taught people who come up to me on this Facebook and they go, oh, I have respect for you, Sunez. You taught a lot of our black Americans. I'm acceptable because I taught who you think I should have taught. But you don't have no resume of teaching any of the 4 billion, 400 million that isn't here and isn't coming out of B.E.T. But I taught them all the way. I taught them all the way. Black America, Caribbean, English Caribbean, Spanish Caribbean, Latin America, South America, China, Germany. Where's the other country? South Africa. Everywhere. India. I'm not a teacher of no 2 million. I'm not a teacher of no 17 million. I teach the 4 billion, 400 million. Righteous white men. Women. Women that I didn't try to sleep with. But I got to deal with people that are weak and wicked. The FBA intends to state that they are originally from here. I see brothers tell me that they're Olmec. They're not from Africa, but the Olmec heads are actually from Africa. They depict Africans from Africa with Egyptian head military gear. Because you did no research, no study, and you hate where you come from. They quote me, Jack D. Forbes. They don't even know that he's not white. Jack D. Forbes is a Native American. And in this Native American, in that book, he shows you throughout census data and throughout the years and years, the delineation of Native American and Black American, African American has been merged and confused and blended so much that sometimes it was done to further slavery and enslave everyone, and then only to enslave some when it wasn't supposedly allowed to enslave Native Americans. And then so they could slave in Native American. That means that research, to use that research to say all Black Americans are Native American, would be as you could easily make the wrong conclusion and say all Native Americans are African American from Africa. Either way, the book was not made that way. The book was not written to make that stupid assumption. That's not scholarship. That's not scholarship, to quote me one page. You know you didn't read the whole book. You did not read the whole book. Native Americans will get mad and they say, Ivan Van Sertima is saying that they're Native American and this and that. I said, brother, I told Lakota, I told Choctaw, I told other Indians, I said, listen, you got to read the whole book. You got to do all the research. Sertima noted when he didn't have the answers, and he was always open to these answers being wrong. It was a presentation. That what he was showing was that black and brown were merging years, thousands, hundreds, and thousands of years ago. That's right, big dog. We did. This is what's happening. Years and years of not caring about scholarship, and now everybody thinks that they're a damn scholar. You're gonna have the nerve to dismiss me in hip hop because I'm Puerto Rican. You better know then that being Puerto Rican in hip hop from in this industry from 1994 to today, that the advantage has never been in my lane. You ever wonder why simple, very, very simple R&B dance music was labeled freestyle? Why you're lying and acting like Puerto Ricans in the 80s, the 90s, and 2000s didn't love rap and were trying to write rhymes too, and you didn't see them anywhere. But see, I was in those ball courts. Just like if someone tells me about ball, right? No, I listen to the guy that knows ball. He knows the guys that were at the Rucker and didn't make the NBA. I know the guys that didn't make the NBA. I know them. I've been around, you know? Not casually seeing things and using that, but really, really embedded and around. Taking the stories, jotting the stories, getting more than one man thoughts. I'm missing a lot of these comments, and I appreciate the build. Listen, Kasim, if you're going to keep quoting Fat Joe, then you're falling into the trap here, okay? Because it assumes that Fat Joe is the most articulate individual in the world. And I'm telling you from experience, though, I've interviewed him multiple times, okay? When I interviewed him, I didn't just say, I followed up with the proper questions, you know? There are other interviews where you'll find where Fat Joe says, listen, that whole 50-50 thing is because he felt family. We're all doing this together. 50-50. You're in a thing watching Black Americans create the music. You're seeing Black Caribbeans innovate, the DJing, etc., etc. You're seeing Black American dancers innovate new moves. You're seeing Puerto Ricans innovate new moves. And you're seeing everybody enjoy it together. The largest population in the South Bronx was Puerto Rican. The first book that my quotes have been used as scholarship for a thesis was Raquel Rivera, PhD's first work, New York Ricans from the Hip Hop Zone. I'm damn near quoted in the very first pages and throughout the book. This research was already done. Why were the Puerto Ricans not in this? Why were they in this? Why are they? These were all asked. These were all given answers to. Answers that are dismissed by people writing books today because it fits the narrative to sell it as a Black American culture. I get people telling, well, who's the significant MCs in the 90s? I get this question from people that never even stepped foot in a record label. You never been to a record label. You never met a record executive. Or did you forget, though, that you had to pitch your music to people that were then going to say, this music is acceptable, we could sell this? Huh? And listen, no matter what you say, Kasim, you're falling for a narrative, though, if you're going to say that Puerto Ricans wasn't there at all. because the place where hip hop gels together, Puerto Ricans were innovating. They were there in the graph. They were there in the breaking. There's countless moves that they created. That's creation. Who sets shit off? Who says that this is the party where we're playing breaks? This all comes out of disco music. And the biggest disco guy was King Mario. And his right-hand man was Tex Hollywood, un Boricua. We were there. And see, this goes both ways. And that means that you don't know your history. Because when we say we were there in hip-hop, the same thing happens on the other side. Record labels like Fania, though, they wanted to only sign people that look like me, light-skinned, you know what I mean? The great Boricuas out of Medina, Lebron brothers, they didn't want to sign him because their head lead singer, they were all brothers, Lebron brothers, was Paul. I think his name was Paul. Beautiful singer. Not Paul, Pablo. And they never were signed by Fania. They had to get a deal with, I think it was Via Records. But Black Americans mess with salsa heavy. I used to talk salsa with La B all the time. He used to dance at the Palladium. Eddie Palmieri said that Azúcar, the famous 10-minute track, one of his biggest first hits, was deliberately played a certain way to have more funk in it because the Black Americans were asking for the funk embedded in the salsa, in the montuno. The montuno's the do 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 do, and the funk, get the funk in there. That's what they wanted. Listen to Eddie Palmieri's records. Stop saying that it was all segregated, this and that. The people that were creating, the most important people, were not doing it by themselves. Some of them, many of them, were creating by themselves, but they were looking at everything, doing the knowledge. That's why I bring up the questions of jazz. Black Americans are the creators of jazz. But by creating jazz, though, they were actually using many, many templates and inspirations. That's a fact. That's a fact. Stop using your own anecdotal experience to mark who was there. That's not how it went. Did we study the gang culture, the explosion of gang violence, and then the activism of the Ghetto Brothers, and how that quelled the gangs and brought a unity to them that was not there in existence? And all of a sudden, then hip hop starts. And let's talk about how a lot of culture happens. Brothers follow the beautiful women. Black women not beautiful? You telling me only black guys want black women? Boricua women aren't beautiful? You telling me only Boricuas want Boricua women? You telling me that when a brother, black or brown, wanted to get one, they weren't going to say, I'm going to go get one? Stop giving me the 85 narrative for culture and arts that are made by the few. It doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up. And if you think you know the story of Charlie Chase and all that kind of stuff, because Drink Champs, expert journalists, historians, right? Because they got all the information, expert historians. Then you're dealing with sound bites. You're dealing with lesser journalism, lesser ethnomusicology. Because I just gave you a source that has much different things. And in a much earlier time, we're talking about 30 years ago, when they would have had more sound, more cognitive awareness of what just happened. Again, people keep talking, they don't even know. You guys talk, the FBA talks about receipts. I have ledgers. Ledgers. All you see in hip hop, it isn't a black thing, it isn't a Puerto Rican thing, it isn't a Caribbean thing. When it was being made, it was a diasporic thing. And the diaspora was constantly influencing everybody. You don't look at any other way, then you're not really getting into the clues of how something's created. People go, oh, well, look at Sunez. Yeah, you claim 55%. Well, what about Allah? He started this all by himself. Did he? Where'd he get 120 from? Now, he invented things that make him the founder and the juggernaut that he is, that we revere. Supreme math, supreme alphabet. The way we teach, yeah. But this was a nation founded because other nations existed. Right? No matter what we say. Right? Guys, I'm almost done here. Only because my time is going to be up. See, Kasim, you keep saying scholarship doesn't get it right, though, okay? But I'm not telling you about scholarship. I'm telling you about real scholarship that I was there for. I wasn't there with Nori. I wasn't there with Noriega. I was there with Dr. Juan Flores, though. I was there with Raquel Rivera, Dr. Raquel Rivera, people that had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of interview. People keep saying scholarship gets it wrong. But there comes a time, though, where we got to say, listen, who are the fools that we following? People sending me Doggy Diamonds interviews? Someone who's embedded in hip hop for so long, and all he gets is gossip stories. That's it, gossip stories. The major wrong, and then say it again, that Lord Jamal did, is have the fucking nerve to use that exclusionary term FBA and say this is an FBA nation and that the black man is God, as if to say and insinuate that I'm not original, that this Boricua here, now I have to use the distinction, meaning what? This particular man of a particular special Afro-Indigenous descent is different than everybody else. You see, people like Allah Shasha, right? My big brother, one of the first Boricuas here. You think that him or I are going around saying we're Boricua? We're going around saying Boricua because you don't fucking know that we're original. It's you that don't fucking know. And by saying that I'm Boricua, I'm telling you I'm original. Instead of foundational Black Americans working on their shade, working on their colorism, right? They want to exclude all the other original people. And I'm going to tell you that doesn't have an end. Eventually, the Black Americans won't be black enough. And something will be found wrong because And under that banner, black is the new white. And if any of you are not in this nation and you're watching this, you better pray to your mystery God. Pray to your mystery God that Lord Jamar doesn't get the balls to try to exile me. Pray to your mystery God really well. Get those knees dirty. Get those knees dirty. Bang those heads to the east. Light up all the incense that you can. Rock the sage around everywhere. Okay? What people forget is that I have defended my original birthright, my blood. I have defended it and fought for it. This whole history of me being in this nation. And not no devil, not no weak and wicked devil that can't even rap is going to tell me something. And you think that somebody like that has the scholarship about amusing the culture. These are people I wouldn't have let around my children. These are people that I wouldn't let even fetch me a bottle of water. Doing devilishment, saying devilishment. Did you ever wonder that everything that I said was too smart? He had no counters for it. So they have to insult me personally. Just remember that. Remember, when someone says there was nobody out there was nobody doing this, there was nobody doing that, have them show and prove that there was in every neighborhood of significance. I have seen arguments degenerate so bad that they spend their time making fun of Puerto Ricans, bodegas, saying bomba plena is something straight from Africa, and you guys didn't even make that up, which is untrue again, because it has aspects of danza and it has indigenous instruments into it of the Arawak. But I digress. Scholarship isn't important, right? Scholarship isn't important. Methodology is important. You want to deal with scholarship, everyone to deal with me is going to deal with scholarship, or then they're going to have to talk about Wing Chun. They're going to talk about Kung Fu, right? Sunnis didn't bring up no Kung Fu. I didn't bring up no Wing Chun. I didn't say anything. How do they know I do Wing Chun? Right? That man is not going to come around. They're not going to spend their nights trying to figure out Wing Chun. They can't even figure out Earth. And that's the one that you following, right? I'm saying it with like Nas Ether. That's the one you name your company after? Like that kind of accent I'm using? The guy whose autobiography calls himself a race baiter? Culture now started with the very first. I said, brother, I think that Black Americans are the leaders. They started everything. But it's an invention. These are elements of countless inventions boiled into an element. An element is not one invention. Look at like graffiti. It's a flame broil. It's a broiling. It's a convergence of many things called graffiti. The only thing that makes it graffiti is that it's art and it's illegally put on things. But after that, though, it is countless art forms. Not one man even came close to making all of it up. You said one man made up MCing? But now either Coke or Melly Mel is going to be discredited, and it's completely useless. Because Coke may be the first, but he may not even be the most first significant. Because Melly Mel's the first to really have like a song structure to it. I've done enough proving of the scholarship. So what happens though? They have to personally attack me. And then they show their divisiveness and show that they are weak. They have, whether they were weak before and I weakened them further because they're weak and I made them weaker, but then they did devilish. Man. And I won't have it though.
Praise God, Sunez.
Peace, God.
Peace.
What's the science, God?
Good to see you, God.
Likewise, God.
When I was down in VA, I was watching you. When I was down there where I shine and Supreme Understanding putting our school together, I was watching you. I said, look at that God doing this thing, man. Good to see you, man. Nothing but love. Love is the high for that understanding, man. How's the seed? She up there now, right?
Yeah, man.
Mine, because we had the one about the same time. Mine just turned 11.
Same, God.
What?
Yeah.
Got knowledge.
Indeed,
When you
God.
say our homework was so-called mystery, God. Peace,
Peace, God.
Peace, God. Next day, get ready for that chest. I'm coming at you. Peace.
Big dog, another truthful fact. You know what I mean? You see, and people didn't discount this back then. They loved the convergence. What my brother Rio calls the homecoming. Hip-hop's supposed to be homecoming. We actually made a culture of all of us adding on to it, and we all created something to it. But now it's no good. We have to make one guy do it. And the people that want to do this, they don't have science and they don't care about jazz. They don't care about this music. They just care about ownership and rights and the superiority of that which is falsely instilled. And I don't mean falsely instilled because they didn't invent. But just because you invent something, culture is to be given to the world and shown to the world how they can use it for themselves, how they can use it for the betterment of all. Everything else is a lie. I'm going to let it go there. If you're going to say you're an FBA, think twice about how emotional you get. Think twice that it's basically based on, it's Puerto Rican people here. No, not Sunez. It's Puerto Rican people here. No, not that Guatemalan guy, but the other Guatemalan people. Oh, the Ecuadorian people at the job. Yo, we could do this all day. Who is the 85? Who is 85? Who's 85? I grew up in a Puerto Rican neighborhood. Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Late 70s, 80s. Todo fue Boricua. Everybody's Boricua. When there's a problem, what am I saying? Well, it's these Puerto Rican. Nah. Is this particular, right? Maybe we go that dudes from that block, right? That's 85 shit, though. Who is the 85? Your definition of you is not justified by how the 85 regard you. If your identity is based on how the 85 regard you, or how the devil, the oppressor, regards you, you've already flawed. And that's the big difference. When anybody sees me, they know, they might say he's Boricua, he's this and that. But what they really know is that I'm God, the true and living God, a supreme being. Even if they deal with the mystery God, that guy Sunez is some type of supreme being. And the weak and wicked always gonna hate it. The weak and the wicked. All All right? Enjoy yourselves, everyone. Supplement this with Dark Kim's latest class that he had earlier this week about this soul. Supplement this, though, enjoying Professor Dave's smoke, the idiot. But really think about this whole thing, because it's black is the new white in this fashion. Doesn't matter if we out genetic and outbreed any devils out there, if we become the devil themselves. Peace.